I got it. Okay. So welcome to Monitoring Student Success in Brightspace. I hope this is the right one. It's the right one, right? The first one? One of three. Okay.
Yes.
Welcome, Ben. I'm Kathi Dutton. I work for Campus Technology Services. And with me in the background is Doug Hemphill from Extended Learning. And we are going to show you some ways that you can monitor your student success in Brightspace. So I'm in my course and should I just that go away? Okay, rearranging things. So on the course navigation bar, there's course progress. We click on this, the first thing we're going to do is the class progress report. Now, this is going to show the first page is an overview. It has all your students in the course, and you can quickly take a look and see how many times they've actually logged into Brightspace. Now, these are test accounts, so you're going to see some false information because for the most part, I've just impersonated and not actually logged in. The content they've completed, the quizzing on TED isn't coming up right. And I think that's because I made some changes and currently he has an F. If I, which I already did, let me just go back. So you can get a quick idea of where your students are just from looking here. Now to see more information, I'm going to pick Georgette because she does not have any funky things going on with her. Okay, so we have our progress summary. And it shows that right now her current grade is a C+. And then she's received 4 grades. We're not using objectives. We can see the content. There's another place where we can look at the content too. This is going to be, again, not real true because of the way that I did things. But if we click on grades, we can get an idea of what's been graded. And if we open up, we can see the feedback. I did a rubric for the discussions, so I can open this up. And this is what the students are going to see too. I can also go down to discussions here, and I will see more information. I will see that they created 2 threads on 2 different topics. And the details here. And then assignments. There was 1 assignment. I have the details. I can see the feedback that I gave her. And then quizzes. And the details for the quizzes. And then I can even look at her attempt all from here. And I guess this isn't going to show me much because of my feedback. So right now, this is what she's going to see, which is a big nothing burger, because I have not allowed my students to see any feedback. So I'm going to fix that right now so we can go back and see what it will look like when you let students see different kinds of feedback. So to do that, I'm going to go to Course Tools, Quizzes. I'm going to edit my quiz. And then now I have to go down to the evaluation and feedback. And right now it says when published, display to learners, and all I have is the attempted grade and no questions. So I can customize this and say incorrect questions only with the correct answer, or I could do all. I can do all questions without correct answers. So I'm going to say incorrect questions only without correct answers. That way they'll have to look and see where the problem is. Look up and find the information in the course. Move the toolbar again. Okay, I'm going to go back to class progress now. Quizzes, details, and then attempt. Now, this is what the student would be able to see: the question and what they answered. It has all the choices. They would have to go and look and find out what the correct answer was, which is really all of the above. I also, for one of the students, did an audio feedback. And it was on their assignment. So maybe this wasn't the right person. But to know that you can do audio feedback, you can do video feedbacks. Or you can just do text. So right now, are there any questions while I go looking for this one audio feedback?
Video feedback, will it show like the little thumbnail yourself, or will it just like be like the link? Because I'm wondering if, I know with my students have to go read my text feedback, so I'm wondering if they see just an attachment, if they'll even click on it, or if they see like an image of me, like it's like the thumbnail of a video, would like they may be more encouraged to click on it. So I'm wondering if it just kind of shows up as an attachment, or will it do like a little thumbnail?
That's a good question, and one I do not have an answer to. Do you, Doug?
Kathy, the audio doesn't really pick up the audience, so I couldn't hear the question. If you want to repeat it.
Yep. So when you do a video feedback for students, do you get your picture, your image thumbnail, or is it just a link?
I believe it's just a link. I will go double check that though.
Okay, I'm running out of people to look at. Oh, Ben, you have a question?
Yes. When the registrar for students who drop the class, where do you really find out the last day they attended?
Yep. Okay. So we can see that from Course Tools, and the roster. Will show the last day that they accessed your course.
Thank you.
Yep.
The only thing I'll add to that is sometimes it's better to look up the last time they submitted work, because it's easy to accidentally click into a course. And you can do that through the class progress area that Kathi was just looking at, because you can look at all their submissions and just see when's the last time they submitted something.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so next on our list is course reports. This will give you information too. So the first is just an overview. I am struggling today with this mouse. But what's more, this will show you what's available and how many people have visited it. So I don't have anything that is hidden. If I click on users, so if I was to expand Lou Grant, I can see that he was in module 1 on May 16th, and the self-reflection paper and the midterm. Now, like I said, because for the most part, I have not logged in as these students, everything else that he was in isn't showing up. But typically there would be dates on all these, and definitely on the discussions, because he did post, and that was yesterday. So this will give you an idea too. I would probably come here because it's real easy to see. And especially if they did, well, this will show you that they clicked on it. Won't necessarily show you that they submitted. So either way would work. Okay. So other ways, other things that you can see that might be useful to you is sometimes you will have a quiz and it will be hung up. It won't go through, right? It's just hanging out in limbo. So if we go to course tools, down to quizzes, and then go into our quiz, say grade. And we do have instructions on this because it is a lot of clicks. Click on attempts. And then we want to show search options. So the default option is attempts that have been completed. But if we can change this to attempts in progress, and then just click up here, the search, and it will show that there's nothing here. So if a student was to tell you that they submitted work, you know, I submitted that quiz, right? And you're not finding any evidence of it to begin with, that they ever even attempted it. You can go here and just look to confirm that it's not hanging in limbo somewhere. And sometimes you'll see that it is, I mean, it's there, but it's not graded yet. And it's because they never clicked submit. So what you would do, and I don't have one. I should have done this. I didn't think, but there's a little.
Probably easiest just to pull up the instructions for it, because that has screenshots.
but then I have to log in.
Mm, do you? It should just be on the regular DLE page.
On the regular DLE page. Okay. Just
Uh,
because I put it there, Doug, doesn't
ha,
mean
ha, ha, ha.
it's under help and support.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it's just at the very bottom. It's not adding and editing content. Okay, hang on. It might be under grading and grade book.
Right here,
Yep.
submit an in progress attempt. Okay, so showed you all that. We did the search options. And then for each attempt that's in progress for the student, you will see this in progress in this little 2 people with an arrow. So this is the impersonate, and you're going to become that person for a moment. And then you're going to confirm that you want to enter the quiz as the user, and just scroll down to the bottom and click submit. You don't want to change anything. And then return to grades. And it said if the grade isn't listed, click on this. I've never seen where I've had to do that, but sometimes you have to republish and update. Thank you, Doug. Other ways that you can manage your course. Back here. And if you notice, Brightspace is really good about opening up new tabs. Is this quick eval. So if you click on quick eval at this point, it's going to show you any activities, submissions, let's do submissions that need to be graded. And I do have something hanging out here to grade. Couple things. But once you have clicked on this, and if you didn't grade it, it's not going to show there anymore. So be careful with this. We found that out. You can also, from the home page, there's quick eval here, but this is going to show you everything in all your courses that you have access to. So that might be overwhelming, but it does give you an idea.
Quick eval also won't show work that's been submitted late.
It won't show. So what it won't show is it won't show after the due date. So yes, if you have a due date on something, it's not going to show up there. So you need to be careful with that too. Little, like it says, it's a quick eval, it's not a perfect eval. Ben, do you have questions?
No questions.
I seem to be going through this really fast.
So Kathy, in response to Jessica's question about the video, it is just a link. And it doesn't even specifically say it's a video link. It just shows up as an attachment under the feedback. And the other thing to be aware of is it does take time to process the video, especially if you turn on the auto subtitling. So if you use video feedback, you may want to wait to publish the actual feedback. So you can save it as a draft, let the video chew on it, and then go in and publish it out to students.
So let's go back and see.
Well, I did it in my course.
I'm just trying to find the audio one. So you can see it here. Because you should be able to see it here. Ah, here we go. Is that it?
Might be.
Yep. So it shows up the audio with a little paperclip icon. What does the video show up like?
Same
Just a
thing.
link? Same thing? So this is what students will see.
So yeah, if you're using that, I'd suggest that you tag it like audio feedback or video feedback or something like that.
Trying to figure out what's encouraging. Feedback, watch the feedback, because I often spend time putting feedback, or I haven't yet used video or audio feedback with Brightspace, but I'll still get emails like, what did I do wrong? How did I get this grade? It's in, you know.
Right.
so Just trying to find ways to like encourage them to use what I've already given.
Right. Reading is overrated.
Can you repeat the gist of the statement?
Jessica was just saying that she's looking for ways to get her students to actually engage with the feedback that she's given them, the written feedback. So she was thinking about the audio and the video as potentially having them get all the good information she's given them.
The only issue that I have with the audio and video feedback is that the interface to do it is a little bit clunky. So it might be one option, depending on how customized the feedback might have to be, is to do the equivalent of a master paper, except as a video. So you just walk through, here's what a good assignment response would have looked like. And you could upload that to Panopto. And then in the feedback for each student, you could just link to that Panopto video. Just as a thought off the top of my head. The other thing is obviously the feedback systems in Brightspace are limited to 30 seconds, is it, Kathy?
The audio was, I believe, 30 minutes.
Mm.
Yeah, I was shocked at how long the audio was. And video, I know is more than 30 seconds. It might be 3 minutes or something. I know that there's a limit on it just because of bandwidth and time. So that when you do the course copy, the feedback does not go with the course copy. So what some people have thought about doing is making some generic feedback. So they already have that and they can just attach it to the students, which is a really great idea, but then you have to recreate it each semester.
Well, not if you upload it to Panopto.
That
As
is
then-
true.
Then you could just use the ad stuff and drop it in as needed. That's a neat idea, though.
Yeah, well, and you do have rubrics, which I did use a rubric.
Yeah, of course.
We also, there's intelligent agents. that you can set up that will fire off information to students, like you have this assignment is due tomorrow, you know, and you can say, send it to the students who have not completed the assignment. You could send it to all your students for encouragement. Keep up the good work, you know, you're working really hard this semester. I'm happy to see that. So there's ways that you could use the intelligent agents, which I'm not going to dive into right now. And if you're interested in that, we can meet with you individually to do that. Yeah, and we've had workshops on that also, on how to create these intelligent agents as a way that you can help monitor your student success by giving them feedback in ways that they might actually see. And you could in there make, because you can do goes out as an email. And if you created an audio or a video in there, you could put it in the feedback to send to them.
So like when you send some courses right now, there's a bunch of things in there that you can read, but you can't like click on these items.
No, with a quick eval, it just shows you the list. You can't click and grade from there. You still need to go back to the normal grading. So it's not like in Blackboard that needs grading where, yeah.
Wait, no, sorry, what was the question?
With quick eval, you
Yeah.
can't grade directly from quick eval.
Yeah, you can, sort of.
Well, let's see. I have two.
Just click on the assignment, not on the name, on the assignment, I think. Oh, maybe it is the name. Okay. No, I guess it is the name, but yeah, click on the name. And it should pull you right into the grading for that person. And then you'll note that,
Oh, okay. I see what Jessica is saying. You can't, from here, you have to go back to quick eval
oh, yes,
to grade again. Yes. And now I understand your question. Once you're in the quick eval, it would just keep going through to the next.
out of curiosity, what happens if you click on viewed by activities? It's probably the same thing, I'm just curious.
It's
And,
just showing
and there's, so what happens if you click on,
evaluate.
yeah.
all.
Okay, so that brings you to everybody, not just those that need
Right.
grading.
Then you can click through. Okay.
What if you click two new submissions? Okay, there you go.
But
So this is the only two for this assignment.
right, and the other that said evaluate all did the same thing. What Jessica was looking for, would it be nice from the quick eval, say that I had multiple different assignments here, that once I clicked on Lou Grant, it would just keep going through. It didn't matter whether it was the Panopto video assignment, if it was the midterm assignment, whether it was a self-reflection paper, it would just keep going through. I wouldn't have to keep going back out to quick eval to get to the next one, or to grade them in buckets by the activity. But that's the way it works.
Yep.
Correct. Doing work from outside the course can always be dangerous, just like sending a course email and you send it to your past students from a past semester. And then you know what happens? The help desk gets bombarded with the type A students. They're like, I already finished this course. Why am I? So So we still have some time, and I have gone through everything that was on my sheet. So Ben, what questions do you have?
Yes, the question I have, which I really need help or where I could get is material is on the one you mentioned about the intelligent assistants that could remind those who've not, done something to do it. So how can I get help, or where can I get?
Okay, so the intelligent agent. Well, let's see, we go down to our course admin. We have the time, so we might as well muddle through this. And then for me, I have it set up under categories, just because I like it that way. So intelligence agents is under communications, which makes sense because we're communicating to the students. So I have one set up right now for no login for the past 7 days, which is a pretty standard one. And if we open edit, you can see what it looks like. So I can schedule it to run weekly. And I can say every 1 week on Sunday. I can pick a time. I want this at 8. Whoops. I guess I'm going to use this 8 a.m. I can have start and end dates.
Always have an end date. Otherwise, just because the course ends, this will keep firing off.
Which is what I was just going to say. You definitely want to have an end date for your course, right? So my end date is tomorrow right now. And then all visible users, which is typically what you would use on the class list. This would also, if you had a teaching assistant, whether they were a grader, mentor, or a TA, they would get it too, which probably wouldn't be a bad idea. If you're expecting them to, they're getting credit for being that teaching assistant, or you could say a specific role. And if you do this, the bad news is that all the roles for the whole DLE shows up. So we have to find Oswego, and I think I went past that. Or you can do, oh, there it is. So is Oswego student? And we are going to go down some more. So I guess, oh, I know what the problem is. The number pad isn't turned on.
Yeah.
I always use that. Okay. And then in this case, I don't have any release conditions. I just want it to happen. And then I'm going to send an email. And it's going to be to, what's that? Okay, if I just go down here, it's going to have all my students. So I did a BCC.
Or you could use replace.
right? If you wanted to be, if you want to be very techie. And then write your email. And this, if we change this to HTML, email format, we have the editor, and this is where you could add multimedia. So I'm going to save and close. Oh, 2 is required. Oh, here they are. Okay. We'll remove this. We don't need them to get 2 copies.
If you want to use the BCC, you can always add yourself to the to list.
That's true. Why don't we do that? But this is just showing students. In this area. Okay. In this case, it doesn't matter. The only person who's going to get this is me. So we have 8 users identified. We want to always do a practice run before we launch one. So I would get an email, but I will also, it will show here, right here, it's working. And once it's done, it will show the last run.
So what Kathy's showing is the basic criteria, which the only 2 basic criteria are take action on if a student hasn't logged in, or take action if a student has not accessed the course within X number of days. There is a more advanced set of settings if you scroll all the way down to scroll down to criteria.
Yep, that's where I was going.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead then. Yeah, I was going to talk about the release conditions.
So we could do course activity. You have to have something, and then you create.
Because I had explained it that last time. I think I have to change it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear that.
Supposed to run through and just say the people who, because my condition is haven't logged in 7 days.
But I think.
We'll have to look at that. So, if we do. So I'm going to do discussion. And then I'm going to select my discussion. And I'm going to say they need 3. And this is threads and replies. And then create. So I'm starting to build this out.
So Ben was asking specifically about like if students haven't turned something in, Um,
Well,
do you want to
this-
walk through that?
Yep, yep. So if we go to, we'll get rid of that, create. Okay, so it's a submission to a folder. And now we're going to find the right assignment, so we'll
So you
do.
actually want no submission to folder.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We don't play with this all that much.
And then create. Where I get. I know that, you have to definitely, you have to do something here. So base it on course activity. And I put user. I don't know what I would do last 30 days. We would really have to drill down on this some more.
You uncheck the course activity, one of the specific things, just put the condition.
Okay, I don't have, you have to have something set up in this blue area, this tag action on activity, or it doesn't work. That much I know. Okay, so you don't have to do the course activity. Okay. And I am not going to do an email. I'm just going to look. So the other thing you need to look at is the status. So right now, this agent is not enabled, and I'm going to keep it that way for a minute. I'm going to save and close. And I can tell that it's not enabled because I have this X. If we go down here, you can see that my practice run completed, and it was 4 minutes ago, and it identified 6 people. So I'm going to do the practice run again. And we'll wait. Do you have questions, Ben, while we're waiting?
No questions. This has been helpful. At least I know where to go to.
Yeah, and I would suggest, Ben, that this is something that would be good to drop into office hours so we can walk through it with you and make sure that it seems like it's working.
Okay.
And as Kathi showed, for something like a due date, you would need to set up a date for the agent to run, or you would manually run it
Okay.
as a one-time thing. That said, Brightspace itself will also let students know if something is due and hasn't been touched, but if they want to get emails, I believe they have to turn that on themselves. Is that right, Kathi?
Okay.
Everybody, unless they play with their settings, they will get the notifications.
But do those go to their email by default?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, at least on due dates, if something is due, I forget what the default settings are, but if it's getting close, I'm near positive it should send off a note to them.
Okay, it finished. So if we click on, it worked. We'll click on the users, and it's going to show that these people have not submitted anything, which is everybody in the class. So now I know it worked. I can go back here and go into my agent and now say enable, save and close. And now I could run it. Something like this, I would just do a run now unless you wanted to set these up ahead of time, and then you could fire something off. You could put that in when you're editing it. You could edit it. So when you're creating it. So I could say that my scheduling, one-time run, and this is due on July 15th. So I could say that on the 13th. And then I have to say who's going to get it. So in this case, I probably just want students. I can save and close. And then on that day, I'm also just going to change my title. Just so it has some clarity. Well, Ben, thank you for that question because you took us to the end of the session, and intelligent agents were on here. I was just going to kind of gloss over them. So we dove down and actually did some other types of agents that you could do is a student who has or has not opened up a content page. So if you wanted to make sure that they read something, right? We did the discussion. You could do it for a student who has or has not earned a particular grade. So if you wanted to send out kudos to your students for scoring something on their quiz, you know, above a certain amount, you could do that. You could also send out encouragement to students who seem to be struggling and maybe give them some resources, you know, where they could go to get more help. So with that, I thank you for coming. And we are always available during office hours. During the summer, they're Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., Wednesday, 9 to 11 a.m., and Thursday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the information is on the oswego.edu/DLE website.
Thank you.
See you in a few minutes, Kathy.